What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Basem Hanna podcast. Today is an extremely special day because not only are we live on location from our guest's office, I actually have the pleasure of interviewing or speaking with somebody that I look up to greatly and who has been such a positive impact on my life. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Natasha Koifman to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm so excited, although really the real reason is because the past few guys before me all were like bald dudes. So you're like, well, you're a girl and you have hair.
You're the first woman on our podcast, so that's a milestone in itself, and also you are the first person with hair on your head. Yes. So thank you for that. Okay, so with this podcast, what I like to do is do a lightning round. So we are going to take turns firing off 5 get to know you questions so the audience can get to know us a little bit better. If you don't want to answer a question, you have to do a shot. Special shout out to Houndstooth Vodka, which is Natasha's own vodka or something that she is behind. So we are going to be doing shots.
Black shots. So it's Hound's black vodka, and we're going to do shots of black vodka. But I am a little scared with this lightning.
No, don't. I'll go first.
Okay.
Since we talked about the black shots, why do you always wear black?
Well, for me, it's I feel most confident when I wear black. And one of my first clients was CIBC, and so I was doing work for like a financial services client. I was working really closely at the time, actually, with the CEO, which was John Hunkin, and their CMO, Stephen Graham. And I just felt like I wanted to blend in a little bit more. My uniform were black turtlenecks and black pants.
Right.
And whereas a lot of the women around me were wearing like pastels and you almost noticed what they were wearing before you paid attention to what they were saying.
Oh.
And so for me, it was really more about, I wanted my ideas to stand out, and I just thought that black uniform gave me the confidence, but also gave me this opportunity to have my ideas stand out as opposed to what I was wearing.
Wow, that is a different take on like the woman in a workplace thing, because most people like lean into their strengths, like women like naturally look better than men, so like when you accentuate features, but you're like, no, I want my work to be the thing.
It was the opposite for me, because I just felt that I wanted it. I didn't want any distractions, and that was a great way to be able to do that. And then it became an identity for me, because I was like, it's easier to get dressed in the morning. I don't really have to think about color. And I always just felt best wearing it. So I had this uniform, black turtlenecks, black pants, and then I leaned into the fashion part of wearing black a little bit more, but certainly in the early days, that was the uniform.
Very cool. Okay, your turn.
My turn.
See, layups, right?
That was good. That wasn't bad. I actually wrote out my questions. One of them was, like, you and Marina have been together for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of curious, like, who chose who? Did you choose Marina? Did she choose you? What happened there? Because you have one of the, I think, the best relationships out there. I love how respectful both of you are with each other, and you have a family. And it's like none of that stuff is easy. But in the early days, who chose who?
It was me, like
chasing.
100%. Yeah. I saw her at her cousin's engagement, who was a friend of mine, and she had just come off vacation, so she was tan. She was wearing like a nice white dress and whatever. And I was like, whoa, who is this chick? And I tried to talk to her, and she wanted nothing to do with me. She's like, get out of here, you're a party boy, I'm not interested in any of this stuff. And so I had to pursue quite aggressively, and it was actually in the pursuit that I realized that I wasn't being myself. Like, she wanted the version of me that I am now, and I was like pure peacocking to try to attract her, and I was like totally turning her off. So it was like learning she is the best version. She brings out the best version in me in every aspect of our lives. And I don't think I have anything I have without her. So it was always me pursuing, and it'll continue to always be pursuing for pretty much the rest of our lives.
I love that, because she grounds you and gives you almost that foundational support that you need to feel confident being you.
Totally.
I think we spend a lot of time not being ourselves, which is kind of interesting with your, like the premise of your podcast, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like we're so busy trying, especially because of social media, trying to be someone else. So I think it's ironic actually that she grounds you to be, exactly who you are.
Everybody's
Love
got
that.
their person, right? Like
Yeah.
you do too.
I do, but
Yeah.
but the difference for me is it took me such a long time to find my person. Because I'm a PR person, I kept making all these PR decisions in my personal life. So I'm like, oh, but he's a race car driver, check. Oh, but he's really, cool and interesting, check. Like, it was more like I was using PR as the tool to make these decisions, and
Right.
really, ultimately, at the end of the day, I needed to really think about, well, what do I really care about? Like, what are my values? And I just want someone that's really caring and nice and loving and supportive. But you think that those are givens, but they're not.
No.
Yeah.
I seriously think that God has blessed me in that I found she was my first girlfriend.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew you guys met when you were really young.
She was
I
my
didn't know
first
that.
girlfriend. Like, she's not the first woman I've spoken to, but she's the first person that I ever, like, I remember I was sitting with my friends. These are not lightning round questions, by the way. These are turning into full out.
I feel like this is Oprah, but
Yeah.
it's good.
Tell us more. Yeah, she was my first girlfriend. I'll leave it at that, and I'll tell you the story offline.
Okay.
But I have, like, all of my life experiences lived with one person. I'm so blessed, and I know that it's not normal to find that person right away, and it's totally okay to not, right? Like, literally everybody else doesn't.
Everyone has their sort of lessons in life, and I feel like sometimes they're relationship lessons, and if you don't learn them the first time, you're going to keep repeating them over
Yes.
and over and over again. So for you, I feel like you learned your lesson when it comes to relationships, because you wouldn't have gotten Marina if you didn't stop peacocking.
Yes.
And so you had to learn that pretty quickly, and so now that part of your life is like, okay, got it. And then you just go on to, like, the other lessons that you have to learn.
There's a season for peacocking, and I think I was just done my Okay. Next question. We're still in layup territory here. You are bi-coastal.
Yeah.
You live in two different areas, Ontario and California.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like better?
I like both, actually. I love Toronto in the spring, summer, and fall.
Right.
And I love California in the winter. It's the sunshine. We just went through January and February where we had zero sun. It was like 6 weeks it was just gray.
It's painful.
It's painful. And I think it really is hard on your mental health. It's hard to stay motivated. It's hard to just show up for yourself, never mind for others when it's that dark. So for the obvious reasons, I like California, but I love Toronto. Toronto's my home. I mean, my husband moved to Toronto from California for me.
So Toronto's number one. That's what we're looking for here.
Yeah.
The Toronto-based podcast.
Yeah, I love Toronto. I love our city. I love the people. But I wish we had a little bit more sunshine. So yes, Toronto.
Okay, your turn.
My turn. Well, maybe, can I ask this?
You can do whatever you want. Trust me, I'm an open book. You know that.
Well, so you, the last company, or one of the companies that you were part of, you made hundreds of millions of dollars for your shareholders, for the company. Like, super, super successful.
Thank God.
Yes. When did you know it was going to be successful?
Honestly, it's like the stock market told us we were successful before we accepted it. Like, we were grinding for so long. Like, I know everybody sees TerraSend, the company talking about TerraSend, as the successful version of what it is today.
Yeah.
But for the 3 or 4 years before it became successful, it was us pushing extremely hard with very minimal results or to show that we're doing well.
So you didn't have signs necessarily that you were on the right track.
We were out of money. Like, so we did that equity, the consequential equity raise that we did happened on November 15th. We would have ran out of money December 1st.
So interesting.
And then literally November 15th happened. We had to halt our stock, and we went and we press released. And in 3 days, it was the company's now, it went from being worth 50-60 million to be worth 300-400 million. Just because it went crazy up, and then all of a sudden people that we were trying to call were calling us, and like the congratulations messages came in and all this stuff. So knowing that it was a success happened like well after we'd actually done the work and like finished the contracts and like we built it into something, and then we got the satisfaction.
So what was the lesson in that? Just keep going?
You have to keep going. It's darkest before the dawn.
Yeah.
That is the lesson.
So you have to go through. It's like there's no going back. You just have to keep going.
Like when you think you're ready to give up, and like there were times when we were like, let's just sell this thing. We actually signed a contract with somebody to sell them our company for a fraction of what we thought it was worth, but it gave our investors like downside protection, and literally we pulled the plug on them because this thing happened, and they were not happy, and we had to like apologize. But you have to look out for your people.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So good question. Good question. Okay, now I'm spicing it up. This houndstooth isn't gonna drink itself.
I know. I want people to see how it pours. Someone's got to drink.
I'm gonna do. Well, you might right now. What's the most you've ever made on a campaign or client? You can drink if you want.
I'm gonna drink.
All right.
I can't kiss it. How's that like?
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I'll pour myself one because I feel like,
Isn't
wow.
that pour great? I know.
Great.
And it tastes just
Sorry.
like vodka. That's okay.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Can we like highlight this a little bit?
I know.
Check this out.
Isn't it so chic?
Very. Black on black.
Okay.
Okay.
But
cheers.
I'm not really gonna like down the whole thing, right?
Oh no, you really do. That's how we get the truth from Natasha.
Oh my god.
Okay, you can do a half. Halves are good. Because I'm pretty sure that's a double shot. Here, take it.
Thank you.
Your turn.
Woo.
Now you know that the spice level is going to increase, so
Oh.
you can feel free to let loose on your questions.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What do you think is? I mean, this is probably too not spicy enough, but I'm actually so curious. But what do you think is your greatest quality that has made you successful?
Yours are so nice, and I feel
Well,
like such like
you know
an
what?
asshole
Because
for
I'm so
asking.
curious.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's just like I admire you so much.
Oh, that's a two-way street, by the way.
Because you're so down to earth, and you're so open and honest with who you are, and so I'm just curious what you think is your superpower.
I'll tell you what Marina thinks my superpower is, which I will proudly take. I was a wallflower growing up. I didn't have my voice, and I felt very uncomfortable. So I can very quickly identify the most uncomfortable person in the room, and I now have the confidence and the salesmanship to gravitate towards them and bring them out of their shell. Because I find that when you bring that person out of their shell, the area around you and like the vibe of that room gets substantially better.
Yeah.
So if I could take any superpower, it'd be that. Like that's an awesome one for me because the line of work that I'm in, I'm always reading people. Like I always have to see the person in front of me, and you can either use that for good or bad. I just want to use it for good. I want people to feel good. I want to leave a positive impression on the person that I'm talking to. So being able to read people is probably a very helpful superpower.
That's really important, actually. It means that you care about being interested in people more than being interesting, which I think is really important.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna do a shot just cause. Like I can't just like leave you alone.
I literally, I never drink, so it's like I'm already
Well, you're not gonna like this one. You said you're never gonna kiss and tell, so I was gonna ask who's the worst client you've ever had of all time.
Oh,
We'll skip that one because you already kind of answered it. But this is my last question, so I'm gonna make it spicy and you're gonna have to do your shot. What else do you want to answer? Have you ever done Molly?
No, I mean I can answer it.
Oh,
Of course not. No. Of course, I say of course not, mostly because I'm very I don't love being out of control. Like even me just taking a shot right now was like, oh my god, I feel a little like
That's
Oh,
delicious, by the way.
Isn't it good?
Yeah, it is really
I
good.
know.
For vodka, like that's
I
actually tasty.
know.
Yeah.
I invested in this a couple of years ago, and we just got approval to be in the U.S. I'm so excited about it because I'm just like, it tastes so good, but it's also like a bartender's dream
Totally.
because like there isn't another vodka that's actually black.
This is such a like this will fly off shelf.
I know.
Yeah,
I love it. We have some RTDs in the space, but yeah, I mean, I can honestly answer that because
Okay, well then.
I know I've never done Molly, but okay, I'm gonna ask something that's not on here because
Go
you're
ahead.
asking me like these fucked up questions.
Yeah.
So,
there we are.
do you watch porn?
Of course. Yeah. I'll still do my
Yes.
shot. Who doesn't? Yeah. Okay, let's jump into the meat. I realized I didn't really do a good job introducing you, so would you be so kind as to introduce yourself?
So I'm the president of NKPR. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary last year. And I run a PR marketing digital agency. We represent artists. The foundation of NKPR is very much around picking and choosing who we work with and what we work on. We're not necessarily an agency that's specific in one industry, but we work in a lot of different industries with clients and brands that are aligned with our values.
I mean, like, I will. Can I boost you a little more because you're obviously like being very humble. As I stare at Natasha, I'm also looking at the wall behind her. That's like, so NKPR is Canada's fastest growing company. We have Canada's top 100 most powerful women, Canada's top female entrepreneur, and then she's got several profiles and features in magazines that are framed and highlighted. Like, you are truly a like cornerstone in like Canadian PR. Like, and I know that you would never say that about yourself, but you are that. You've worked with the gamut of clients, like from like the biggest bigs to like lowly people like me. That's how we got to know each other. And the advice that you give, you're so much more than PR because you actually help people. Like, you, I know you only take on clients that you care about, and you pour your heart and soul into making them things that they can't even believe that they were. Like, this setup doesn't happen without Natasha telling Basem that you need to put yourself out there more.
Thank you. I do very much feel like I do put myself into every account that we work on, and I feel like I'm really passionate about it. My goal was never build a huge company. My goal was help build people up, help build businesses up that you're really passionate about, and that we're going to make sure that we're behind 100%. And so, for me, that's really important. I mean, I was on a call with a client this morning with this like wild idea, but I couldn't stop thinking about it all night. I sent him a text last night, and I said, "Call me. I have this really great idea after I watched John Wick."
Right.
I went to see John Wick. Oh my god, it's so good.
Okay.
And I sent him a text, and he never got back to me. And then I called him this morning. I'm like, "Dude, I have a really, really great idea." And I took him through it. He's like, "Wow, that's really powerful."
Yeah.
Like, so do you want to do it? And he's like, "Okay, let me think on it." I'm like, "Okay." But it was just one of those, like, it was like one of the biggest celebrities in the world partnering with like a Canadian brand, and the marriage of the two. Like, it's just I can't tell you, but it's like it would be huge if he allows us to do it.
I have no doubt that it'll be huge. I'm gonna go to like so we already talked about this when you start NKPR. Was NKPR a success from day one?
I guess define success. I mean, for me, I would say, yeah, because my goal was I was working at an ad agency before, and I had started a PR division for them,
Right.
and I had to promote everything that got put on my desk because whatever they got, I had to leverage from a PR perspective, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be able to pick and choose what I worked on, and so for me, my very first client was Visa Canada, leveraging their film festival sponsorships across the country, which I knew how to do. My second client was CIBC. So I would say, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, like
yeah.
by anybody's standards, those are two very big accounts. And
yeah, I think for me it was a lesson in believe in yourself. I mean, which is ironic because we're like the piece above us is believe, and I think that's important.
But I just want to like highlight one thing that you said, because even though the people that you just mentioned or the companies that you just mentioned are signs of traditional success, that's not the reason that you said they were successful. You said they were successful because you considered yourself a success because you were doing things that you wanted to do.
Exactly. It wasn't, you're right, it wasn't, the success wasn't that I had like 2 of the biggest companies in the world or brands. For me, it was more because I had the opportunity to choose that that's what I was going to do. I chose myself.
Just the fact that that's the way that, like, you're entrepreneur wired. You're like,
For sure.
you are not like most people like, I was successful because of this. You're like, no, I was successful.
For me, it was really more the choice of picking and choosing, and those clients in particular, I got to work with my friends because my friend Jennifer was running Visa Canada at the time, and then my friend Sarah Sacer, who I still work with today, was the director of marketing at CIBC at the time. And so it was this opportunity, and then the CMO, Stephen Graham, I still speak to this day, and then John Hunkin was a big mentor of mine.
Right.
It's because of the people that I got to work with that felt so validating for me.
That's so good.
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay. You've been in PR for a while. How has it changed over the years?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's a totally different game. Like when I started in PR, I was still calling media people because they'd still answer their phone, like their actual phone, not their cell phone.
Right.
We would read, the way PR worked before is I would read the newspaper, I'd see an article that I liked, I would look at how can I pitch that particular media person because of it. Sponsorship was a big thing, events. Well, it doesn't work in the same way anymore. I remember when Instagram and Facebook started, I was like, okay, I need to get on top of this because I want to make sure that we become our own media outlet as opposed to having to rely on the media because I could see the decline in the media landscape.
Right.
And so now if you look at all the tools we have in our toolbox, I mean, we can do social media, we can look at video content, we can actually direct market our clients. We have influencers that create content for us where we can actually tap into their network as well. And then of course you have events and all the other things in media relations. But we just have way more tools in our toolbox. And from a PR perspective, I think the biggest lesson for me was always how do you have to stay open to everything that the world has in front of you or is opening up.
Of course.
Because I had friends that were in the PR business when social media started that they were like, well, I don't need to care about social media because it's going to go away. I'm like, I don't think so, but okay.
But that's a huge pivot, right? Like that, the fact that you can see that trend coming and action it is probably what saved.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have an agency right now if I didn't do that. I mean, say like we were able to bring our clients into social media. Like Laura York has been a client of ours for 17 years, and we were the ones that started their Facebook account, their Instagram accounts. Like we were very early adopters of that space. And even now, when I look at what we're doing with AI, we're embracing it. We're leaning into it. We're not worrying that it's going to take over PR because you still need someone that's going to develop the strategy. But how do you be as efficient as you can with your time?
So how do you use, I'm just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
totally off the cuff, but like how does...
Well, we look at AI. So let's say, like, for example, when we're looking at social media content, normally it would take us hours and hours to create content. Well, what you can do is if you feed AI properly, you can actually get the content. You still have to edit it. You still have to come up with a strategy, but you could just save yourself hours of time. And at the end of the day, we bill against time. And our clients pay us for time. So why don't we look at where we can put our time that is best used to maximize our efforts for our clients?
So the clients see the value.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's Natasha. You're always trendsetting. Obviously, over 20 years, you've had to let clients go. How do you do that?
Well, the same way I probably we used to break up with boyfriends. Like I always had a hard time going through breakups. I would say it's not me, it's not you, it's me. So it always because. But
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I tend to do that with clients as well. You don't really need us. You could do something else. Like
we can edit that. We don't even have to talk about that if you want to be giving out your secrets.
No, I mean, listen. I think when it comes to it's about fit, right? Like I think for me, if I ever break up with a client, it's because they've put my team in a bad position or have been disrespectful to the team. And to me, I'll always choose my team before I choose a client. And so it hasn't happened often, but when it does happen, it's because I feel like the team has been disrespected, and there's no coming back from that. And like I said, I'll just always choose the team.
I mean, like, mama bear instincts aside,
Always.
like you, as somebody who understands like the value of the team that boosts us, like I'm nothing without the team that supports me, right? Like,
Likewise.
I'm effectively now I'm a figurehead. Like obviously the decisions, the important decisions will come to my desk, and I have to action those. But there's so much trust and respect that we have to give these people. So if I was just thinking, like, if somebody disrespected my team, I'd be like,
That's the only time it's happened, honestly, is I just feel like my team will always take priority.
Okay, so you're in PR, you're doing your thing, and then last year I get like email notifications and like media hits about the Natasha.
Yeah.
So tell me when you became a developer, like when you started like walking into our like my newly found career.
Your world.
Yeah.
Well, one of our clients is Lantera Developments, which is a huge developer in the city.
Respect.
And Mark Mandelbaum, who's the founder, called me into his office one day, and he said, "I have a great idea, I have an awesome idea." I'm like, "What is it?" And if you know Mark, you know that he's very, he's probably one of the, I think, most brilliant marketers out there. He really is.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Well, we bought this property on Adelaide Street, just 2 blocks away from your office. And how would you feel if we called it the Natasha?" And I was like, I thought he was kidding. I'm like, "Really?"
That's
He's
so
like,
cool.
"Yeah, because he's like, you're so you're a mentor to so many people, and you're looked up to in so many ways." And
I think the word you're looking for is icon. Well, you won't say it for yourself, but I'll say it for you. Yeah.
And so, and I'm very particular about my aesthetic. And so he said, "I would love to look at what a licensing agreement with you would look like." And so that's when Natasha the Residences was born.
Pre-sold, it's done.
We sold almost $500 million worth of inventory in 4 weeks. So 75% of the building was sold in 4 weeks. It was pretty impressive. And the only reason the last 25 wasn't is because he was holding on to it.
Yeah.
We're officially groundbreaking now. The remaining 25% will get sold as the building starts to go up. But yeah, it was very, very cool, and I loved every minute of it because I got to work with Alessandra Munch, who's one of my favorite designers.
Right.
And
Very talented.
yeah, and we just created this amazing aesthetic, everything from the actual suites to the amenity space. And I have 2 units in it myself, so I'm very excited.
I mean, I've paid close attention to this thing. It is truly stunning.
Yeah,
like you can tell the Natasha signature is on that project.
I can't wait.
Okay. 2 more subjects I want to talk about, but they're completely unrelated. So let's deal with the entrepreneurial stuff first, and then we will talk about APJ. What advice this is an entrepreneurial podcast, and most of the people that listen to this are still trying to find their way. So what advice would you give 20-year-old Natasha or 25-year-old Natasha, that is, although like she's like 27 now, so like 2 years ago, would you give that earlier version of yourself before the success and before you figured out that you want to start your own agency and like all that stuff? Like, there's usually nuggets in that people really listen to and resonate with. So I'd love for people to hear what you got to say.
I think the biggest thing is to be patient with myself. And I think that's where a lot of young entrepreneurs struggle with, because you see on social media, everyone puts their best foot forward. And so you think everyone's really successful, but the reality is everyone has their own journey and their own lane. And I think one thing is, like, I don't look at a competitor's sites, for example. I never waste my time on what someone else is doing. I'm always sort of looking at, like, what could I be doing? And so when I think about my 20, 25-year-old self, I would be like, be patient with yourself and like trust your instinct, because you want to trust what everyone else is doing, but you really have to trust what is inside of you.
Right.
And so I feel like patience probably is the answer. I wish that I would have been more patient with myself. Not that, it would change anything, but it's just, patience, like you're gonna be fine.
It is a virtue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so true. It's but I think young people today really struggle with that because there's this need to have to be successful like this. And the reality is that's not always the case.
No.
And if you think about some of the most successful people, yes, some of them come into it like early on, but some people don't come into it until much later. And so you just have to allow yourself, the flexibility or the patience to lean into it whenever it's your time.
So like run your own race.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, very sage advice. Let's shift gears completely and talk about Artists for Peace and Justice. I would love for you to introduce it, and then I will tell you how I feel about it, but it's more important for you to describe this thing.
So for me, showing up for myself and for others has always been really important. I did a TED Talk about it a few years back, and being philanthropic and making sure that I leave the world a better place than I came into it has always been sort of my motto from a very early age. And so Artists for Peace and Justice is a charitable organization that I have helped start 14 years ago. And what we did was we built the very first free high school in Port-au-Prince in Haiti, because there is no free education beyond junior high school,
right.
Which is just unbelievable considering Haiti is 3 hours away from Toronto. It's the other side of the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
I had started the organization before the earthquake even hit. And so when the devastating earthquake hit in Haiti, hundreds of thousands of people died. So many families and kids were displaced. And so one of our first fundraisers was just after the earthquake hit. And we had people like Nicole Kidman and Josh Brolin, and think of some of the biggest celebrities out there, help to basically fund our very first school. We bought land, we bought the school, and we've had 27,000 students that we've helped provide an education for, that would never exist in Haiti if it wasn't for Artists for Peace and Justice.
I got involved. I only know about APJ because of you, and I've seen over the years the work that gets done, and as you get more involved and you start to see, what you did the year before and how it's translating and the people it's helping year over year. Even in my small time of knowing it, probably 4 years, it's like you've seen people graduate.
We've seen people graduate. We've seen, a story that comes to mind is one of my trips to Cité Soleil in Port-au-Prince, which is one of the most dangerous parts in the Western Hemisphere. And so I remember this little girl jumped into my arms, and she would have been maybe 3, 4 years old. And we were walking around. She was in my arms, and I think one of the pictures is up here somewhere. And we're walking around, and then her mother starts yelling in Creole, and I didn't know what she was saying. And my friend David Bell was with me at the time, and he translated, and what she was saying was, "Can you take my daughter?" And as a parent, she's not saying to take her daughter because she doesn't love her. She's saying to take her daughter because she loves her.
Yeah.
Because she
That's
felt
so
like
hard.
I could give her a better life. And so you look at that situation, and you're like, this is how devastating it is there. And then you fast forward 10 years, and that same little girl goes to our school.
Yeah.
We gave her an opportunity to have a future, to have an education. And so that's the work of APJ.
That's the drive.
That's the drive.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful cause, and I commend you for doing it, and I'm a proud supporter and will continue to be.
I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, that is awesome. Okay, one parting question is, what's next?
I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I think what's next is I want to keep building NKPR. I want to do another building. That is definitely,
Yes,
I definitely want to do that.
definitely.
I loved it. I loved the process. I loved every part of it. So I definitely want to do another
Would
one.
you be more involved this time? Like, would you do it from the ground up?
Well, I was involved, right?
You were.
Yeah, I was.
Really
I was
good.
involved even looking at, we have just over 50 floor plans, which is almost unheard of because we wanted to make sure that every square foot of the unit that you bought was useful space. And so I don't know if I could have been any more involved with this
Right.
project,
That's
but
awesome.
I guess the only part I wasn't involved in is actually buying the land. but I felt pretty involved. I definitely want to do that. One of the questions I know you were going to ask, but you didn't, which was, what was my job before NKPR?
Yeah, I did want to.
I know.
I don't know about like your time.
No, I know, but one of the things, like my first job was a retail job, and I loved retail because I love fashion, and so for me, and that was one of my favorite jobs, other than what I'm doing now, and so I'd love to at some point. And I used to actually in junior high school, I used to design my own clothes. My mom and I would go buy patterns, and she bought me a sewing machine. I used to sew my own clothes. So like a dream of mine would actually definitely be to do something like creative direct, like a capsule collection or something. So I would love to do something like that. And I think the other thing is just make sure that like NKPR continues to service our clients in the most meaningful way possible. And so I just want to keep doing what we're doing.
I have no doubt about the NKPR stuff or the condo stuff really. And I think that if you launched a line of clothing, it would just who you are, it would sell out in a minute anyways. So
I think that'd be really fun. It would be one of those like passion projects, but I feel like on the real estate side, like, don't you think, okay, putting it out there.
Okay, hit me.
Okay, Muskoka.
Yeah.
Don't you think, whether it's Muskoka or Prince Edward County, if there was an actual resort,
Yes.
so like hotel residence right on the water, but like the most, like the coolest, chicest experience?
Okay, so I have like insight onto this.
Ooh.
Okay, so do you know that there's been 2 attempts at Muskoka on Rosso. There's been, Cleveland House is a very old, not resort style. And then there was the JW Marriott,
Yeah.
which was something before that.
Yeah.
And then there's the like Touchstone, which is on the other side of Rosso.
Yeah.
It is a very viable business model, but I think you need to time it properly.
Yeah.
And building in Muskoka is like, it's hard to get trades up there.
Yeah.
So the costs end up going like through the roof. But if you put the right
Team
people,
together.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it needs it.
It needs it because the only
So
place
desperate.
that's out there is like JW Marriott
Yeah.
right now because there's nothing
That's
else.
dated.
It's dated.
Yeah.
And there's nothing.
Nothing
really...
wrong with JW Marriott.
No,
It's a
we like
beautiful
it.
resort.
We do. We
Beautiful
love
resort,
it.
yeah.
But every like resort
Yeah.
could use some competition,
It
and
has
there
to.
just isn't. So
It has to.
yeah.
We'll talk offline because
Okay.
there's a whole like there's a current of things that like there's a lot of momentum for that to happen, but it would need like you guys to make it happen. It needs that.
Yay.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. You are the best for always agreeing to do my like little side
I'm
projects.
so excited.
Yeah.
I love this, and I'm so proud of you. And this is awesome.
Oh, thank you
This is
very
so good.
much. And we will, I know that the people that see this are going to be so like filled with motivation and inspiration. You are truly an inspirational person, at least to me. So they can believe that too, but they will. Thank you again.
Awesome.
You're the best.
Mwah. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Basem Hanna podcast. To catch more full-length episodes, you can go to our website, basemhanna.com. That's BASEMHANNA.com. Or you can catch us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and full episodes of the audio podcast can be found on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. See you next time.